Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Bruno Gonçalves. I am the Vice President of an association, a Roma association called Letras Nómadas, Nomad Letters. Before I start, I would like to say thank you for the invitation to be here today online in your event. I will speak in Spanish or, well, a bit of Portuguese too. As you know, Portugal and Spain are neighboring countries. So Roma people in Portugal can actually speak quite a lot of Spanish because we love flamenco and Spanish music. Okay, let me now read the presentation. And please bear with me. I will do my best anyway in my reading. In a few days, we will celebrate the 50-year anniversary of the first international meeting of Roma people on 8th April 1972. It was held in England, where some European Roma people and others from the rest of the world decided to put up a good fight to help our people. After 50 years, we need to ponder about the changes made. We continue being the oldest ethnic minority in Europe and the more numerous one. Some changes have occurred, but after 50 years, what's the situation of the Roma people in most European countries? A very important question, indeed. In Portugal, this reflection points to a negative situation. Portugal has a glorious inheritance, and it is a glorious legacy, which is a racist legacy. In spite of 500 years of our presence, Roma people remain considered to be foreigners. Many times they sent me to my motherland. They question my Portuguese identity when they discover Gypsy land does not exist, and then they seek to isolate us, our citizenship, and deny our rights in Portugal, which for the past 50 years have lived in poverty. Poverty, as you know, is not only financial poverty, it goes beyond. For you to get a better picture, 30% of Roma people in Portugal live in tents or camps, without power, without drains, without water. Portugal is one of the countries in Europe with 2% of people having social council flats. The remaining Roma people in Portugal live in ghettos. Ghettos are in the outskirts of cities. They are sent there together with other ethnic groups, and so they are sentenced to poverty, because in a ghetto, children are condemned to go to ghetto schools, which are poor. They have poor teachers, they have poor education, which will eventually result in poor qualifications and finally poor jobs, thus closing the loop of poverty. In Portugal, we still have nomads, forced nomads, Roma people in the south of Portugal who are expelled from one country to another one, children, young people who cannot go to school. The only right they have is to go to hospital. Based on all such factors, and particularly housing and racial prejudice and bias, leaders and literacy levels remain very low, and the system continues giving privileges to non-Roma population, denying multiculturality and diversity which is present in Portuguese society. Concerning education, very few things have actually improved. In recent years, however, some changes have been made. For instance, some public policies stemming from ideas and Roma associations, which means more access to university. A program has allowed 40 young men to go to university with a grant. Over the past 5 years, 8 young men have managed to complete their degrees and even complete a master's thanks to this scheme. Another program is an efficient public policy which currently allows 500 children and youngsters to go to a third cycle in secondary education. They are funded €500 a year. In spite of some transformations in education which are occurring, there are classes exclusive to Roma kids. Schools and teachers who are poorly qualified have to deal with their cultural specificities, and in schools the environment is a hostile one. No coexistence based on all such factors. The labor market is likely to remain close to Roma people given their low qualification, but we all know that the rejection they suffer from is bias and prejudice. Some young men, some youngsters in the labor market have to hide their cultural identity not to lose their jobs. If they work, for example, in a supermarket, they tell their families they go elsewhere. They actually hide on their social media, Instagram, Facebook, their identities, because today it is common practice for human resources departments in companies to go through the social media of their employees. Portuguese Roma people still make a living on market stalls. Some live on social benefits, but markets will soon vanish. They are now considered a marginalized activity. They are not able to compete with large supermarkets, and more towns and municipalities have actually moved their markets far from cities, far from villages and towns. Portuguese Roma people are daily attacked by right-wing parties, a party that had a lot more votes in recent elections. They attacked Roma people in Portugal. They put the blame on them as the cause of the country's main problems. They accuse them of being lazy and not willing to work in a populist discourse, in the discourse of hatred, which has rooted into Portuguese society to a great extent. And now they even dare attack Roma people, standardizing and normalizing anti-Gypsyism. In the first lockdown in March 2020, the leader of the right-wing party, knowing it was unconstitutional, submitted a bill in the Portuguese parliament to confine Roma people throughout the pandemic, just in case there was an outbreak of COVID-19. These are times that are very difficult. Town councils are afraid of launching policies in favor of Roma people because they are not popular policies and they are afraid of losing votes. We are aware that the mindset, mentality, and anti-Gypsyism does not come by a decree, but it is being normalized to a greater extent in European societies, even though the European community, the European Union, has put together funds which are always or almost always handed by national governments and have failed to tackle specific topics. There's still a view which considers working for the Roma instead of working with the Roma. From 2021 to 2027, the European Union will develop a new strategy to support the inclusion of the Roma people. Roma organizations cannot allow governments to fail strategically in this support. The future of new Roma generations is at jeopardy. Housing is primordial, and the monies should not only be used to build more ghettos which make us poorer and poorer. Rather, we ought to create local strategies that can defend Roma families and place them all around city fabrics, avoiding ghetto schools which no way contribute to the children's future. A lot has to be done for an educational system. We are to train teachers for intercultural education, to support Roma teachers for the Roma sector. Textbooks and manuals need to be more diverse in school. References have to be made to Roma culture in educational programs. Associations and are essential for bridges between Roma people and schools to come true, to be laid down. Roma associations need to invest in working with Roma families so that Roma children can start going to school at an earlier stage. We must continue affirmative policies, positive policies for Roma women to gain access to higher education and for access to become normalized, and for these young girls to be supported by grants so that they can complete a degree. The growth of the Roma population cannot be considered by municipalities as a threat. Based on studies by the World Bank, the Roma population grows at a faster rate, and it is the youngest in Europe, where the population is aged. It is therefore necessary to train the young people for them to contribute to social security systems in the future, for pensions to be sustained, and for regions to be more competitive on the basis of qualified, efficient labor. We cannot allow countries in the first world, such as those in the European Union, to have different life expectancies, 15 years less in Roma populations. Investment has to go to campaigns, and intensive work has to be done in primary care, and a better access has to be ensured to healthcare systems. We need to train our young people for them to develop skills to be representative enough in state organizations, and also at the political level, awareness needs to be raised within our communities. We must build a critical spirit and so create areas for discussion to generate a positive impact on communities. Room has to be made for the empowerment of Roma women. They have been the subject of dual discrimination. Some have already proved their strength and their value for the growth of our people. Roma associations need to be entitled to a voice, to speak up, and to make decisions as far as policies are concerned for inclusion. It's about time we decide what is best for future generations. We need non-Roma people to be hand in hand with us and to build with us. It is not an easy job at all, but above all, we need to have confidence and be given confidence. We are bound to fail in the process, but we should not forget that there are many people there already who failed with our process. We don't have to prove we are honest on a daily basis. We don't have to prove we are able to manage our own process. We don't have to be twice as good as the rest of the population. We just need to ask for our opportunity because we are entitled to it. Thank you. Thank you very much, and excuse me for my Spanish.
Pues gracias a ti, Bruno.
Thank you, Bruno.
Se ha entendido perfectísimamente tu
We understood you very well. No problem. Well, the question by Raúl is, which is the relationship between the Portuguese government and the Roma organization regarding education? And then there's any kind of cooperation? Bruno has already replied, yes. We are closer now. The issues of university and the higher studies and secondary studies are our ideas. Well, I would like to know that now there are public policies, but they began as projects by the different associations, and right now the government has a public policy because those projects were very good. So now we are working close with them, as Carlos knows and you also know. Roma associationism is poor, but it's improving during the last 5-7 years. And I want also to say that there are Roma women associations, and they are strong, and they are powerful, and they are doing a good job. And all the processes have been improving. Yes, our situation in Portugal is very bad, but we are beginning to conquer our own space and to be able to access the government, because in the past, the government didn't pay any attention to us because we didn't have the intellect or the capacity or the skill to contribute to those public policies. But all this has been improving a lot. Bruno, some people cannot see everything which is written, so I'm going to read it. And he said, but and on the other hand, what are your contributions to all the issues you identified during your presentation? So from your association, Letras Nómadas, what are you doing about that? Letras Nómadas means wants to the dynamics of the Roma population. We love the name and we chose it. So our best achievement is to be able for the government to implement the OPRE program. So we have Roma youngsters studying at university. It's been implemented for 5 years. And as I said before, we only had eight kids who graduated. And this is very good because there's an increasing interest in Roma people to study at university, because this is our main focus point. We are always trying to contribute to improve the different policies, and we have a program that has been also turned into a public policy, which is Homer. And we have participation methodologies in order to foster Roma people in different municipalities. We are working in different municipalities, and this has been so good that part of the young people that have been studying at university are from the poorest communities we are working with, because 90% of children who can access university are coming from very, very poor communities that had no hopes before. And it's amazing that these children have finished their studies at university. We are doing some things, but it's not easy to work in a country with this kind of legacy we have, this colonial legacy. Portugal is very racist, and we are suffering a lot right now because we have an extreme right-wing party that every day talks bad things about Roma people. And after the last elections, they included anti-Roma people in their lists, and we are really suffering a lot with this hate speech that this leader of the extreme right is doing in Portugal. Is similar to Vox in Spain, but I think he's even worse because he's clear to torture Roma people. Josué asks the same questions about the name of your organization, but you already replied to that. And he's asking as well, what kind of actions are you implementing to solve those issues that you mentioned before, but you already replied to this as well. And regarding the right extremist, can you give us a brief comment of the name of the party, the origin of that party, which groups of the Portuguese society support this politician? Yes, this party is 2 years old, more or less, and it's someone who's coming from a right-wing formation. What's the name? Chega. It's the name Chega. Does it mean anything? It's enough. That's the meaning of it. That would be the translation. Enough. Dosta in Roma language. In Portuguese, we say chega. He's a very young politician. He was a candidate to a town hall of a city near Lisbon, and he began to speak about Roma people and what the Roma people was doing. And for a big part of Portugal society, this has been very good because they were not brave enough to speak up and to say that kind of things about Roma people. But with social media, this has been made very easy, and now we have a high percentage of our population that blames Roma people for everything. And the measures he is proposing is against the benefits or the subsidies for Roma people. This is hate speech that every day is worse, and it's increasingly worse. And they are the third political party now, and I'm afraid they are growing. This is really, we're talking about 50,000 to 75,000 Roma people in the community. But this party is impacting in our daily life. because they are talking and talking bad things about us. Okay, well, it's almost 1 o'clock, so I would like to take this opportunity because this was the time for the Q&A and the discussion, and I would like to take this opportunity to ask you something. Bruno, do you have any proposal, one item, one action that do you think that it's relevant so I can include it in this document I'm preparing? If you have more than one, the more the better. Well, I think education is crucial. I think that we have these positive programs, and this will allow our children to attend school and to attend university. When you say programs of historic preparation, what do you mean by that? No. Reparation. For me, I think that would be the best thing would be positive discrimination. Yeah, that would be the best thing. For me, that would be very valuable. But with all the issues we are facing right now, I think those programs of this historical reparation had been really important, so these children can achieve a higher level of education. So I understand that before it was very difficult or even almost impossible for the schooling of Roma children in Portugal. Is that what you are saying? Yes. Yes, there was a barrier because Roma people didn't have the papers, and if they didn't have a subsidy, they couldn't attend university. So now with grants, we have 40 Roma youngsters studying at university. Okay, you are referring to higher education, not to just compulsory education. Yes, we have another program, Home Educa, and there are grants for children studying at primary and secondary school. And they give them 500 euros per year, and that's been very important for them. Carlos, you've got the floor now. José Alfredo wanted to ask something.
Sí, no, bueno, ya respondió a algunas de las cosas que yo me iba a preguntar, sobre todo
I already have some answers about the situation of the students at university. It's clear already, situation of youngsters in secondary school. But I wanted to ask, is there any association, because you already said that they are becoming a bit stronger, the Roma associations there. I knew about that. But does any association over there have had the opportunity to access to any European project in Portugal? Right now, only Letras Nómadas. It's not an European project. It's something that is being done with the Council of Europe from there. But it is not so easy. It is not possible for us because we don't have the size or the capacity in order to apply for those programs, because we need experts to do that. And this happens that many entities which are non-Roma, that they work for Roma people, and you need someone who knows about this. You need experts, and for us it's quite difficult to do that. But we are trying always to do that but I mean training of our Roma people. It's really important so they have the skills to make these applications. Yes, I was just mentioning this because some years ago we were aware, I can't remember exactly when. No, I can't remember either. We were working in one project and we were in Lisbon for one of the European projects. We were partners. Can't remember. Maybe Roma Sol was the name of the project. And there were some partners from Portugal. And what we don't understand is if it's a Roma project, then you don't have any Roma associations there. We were really shocked by that. So that's why I say this, because I know that there are Portuguese Roma associations and we don't understand why they are not participating. Why don't we have a project for Roma people by Roma people? That's what we should do. Well, the situation now has improved a lot. We do have some Roma associations now who have been recognized. The situation is better. It's not ideal, but it's improving a lot. And I can state today that we have a couple of associations that have the capacity to apply for European projects. I'm sure of that. I don't know if we have more questions for Bruno. I just wanted to say thank you. It's been to thank you for this opportunity to be here today. I've learned a lot here. And I have learned a lot from Spain. I had many tools. Many of the tools we have from Portugal are coming from Spain. We really need you. We need your expertise. We should be doing something bigger, maybe having an Iberian meeting, because I think we can learn from each other. We have these grants programs for education and you can use them in Spain because I think that would be a very good idea. But we have to learn a lot from you because you have lots of expertise and you've been here for a long time. So my proposal would be to have an Iberian meeting in Portugal or in Spain, because in that way we can exchange knowledge and learn a lot from you. You mean to join different Roma entities together?